Welcome to Learning English Every Day. Today we hear a story about a woman who had everything but owned nothing. My name is Sarah. I am 30 years old. I am standing in front of a mirror. The mirror is giant. The frame is made of gold. I look at the woman inside. She is wearing a silk dress. The silk is smooth. The color is emerald green. It costs more than a car. I have diamonds on my neck. They are heavy. They are cold. Julian stands behind me. He is my husband. He is tall. He is handsome. He is successful. He smiles at my reflection. It is a perfect smile. He puts his hands on my shoulders. His grip is firm. "You look beautiful, Sarah," he whispers. "You are the crown of my life." I smile back. I have learned how to smile, but my eyes do not move. My eyes are frozen. Everyone looks at my life. They see the luxury. They see the black cars. They see the mansion on the hill. Sarah is so lucky. They say, Julian treats her like a queen. He gives her everything. He saved her from the dirt. I hear their voices. I see their envious eyes. In the daytime, I play the part. I walk with my head high. I wear the expensive shoes. I attend the charity balls. I am the perfect wife. I am a masterpiece on a wall. But the world is blind. The world sees the light. The world does not see the shadow. When the sun goes down, the mask falls. Julian goes to his office. I go to our bedroom. The room is huge. The bed is soft, but I cannot breathe. The air feels thin. The walls are moving closer. Every diamond feels like a stone. Every silk thread feels like a wire. People think money equals happiness. They think a good husband is enough. But my life proves the opposite. I have a secret. It is a terrible secret. I have a perfect life. I have a perfect husband, but I do not love him. In fact, I am terrified of him. I do not live in a home. I live in a cage. It is a beautiful cage. It is a cage made of silk and gold, but a cage is still a cage. Julian says he loves me. He says he wants to protect me. He says the world is dangerous. "I do it for you, Sarah," he always says. He chose this green dress. He chose my friends. He chose my silence. 7 years ago, I was a different person. I was a photographer. I had a camera. I had old boots. I had a soul. But Julian erased that girl. He washed the dirt from my hands. He replaced my camera with a diamond. He told me I was safe now. But safety is not the same as peace, and gratitude is not the same as love. I owe him my mother's life. I owe him my house. But tonight, I realized something. I have paid my debt. I have paid with my soul. And I am tired of being a doll. I look down at my hands. My skin is pale. My rings are sparkling. But my heart is a dark room. Julian thinks he owns me. He thinks I am a gear in his machine. But a gear does not feel pain. A gear does not cry at night. I hear his footsteps in the hall. Tap, tap, tap. The sound makes my skin crawl. He is coming to check on his prize. He is coming to lock the door. I close my eyes. I take a deep breath. The silk is tight against my chest. I am a prisoner in a beautiful house, but the prisoner is waking up. The handcuffs are made of silk, but I am ready to break them. To understand my golden cage, you must see my old life. 7 years ago, I was not Sarah the Crown. I was Sarah the street photographer. I did not live in a mansion on a hill. I lived in a small apartment above a flower shop. Every morning I woke up to the smell of roses and damp earth. I did not wear emerald silk. I wore old jeans and a leather jacket. My boots were covered in mud from the city streets. I had one treasure. It was an old Leica camera. It was silver and black. It was heavy. It was cold. But when I held it, I felt powerful. I felt alive. I walked through the crowds. I looked for the stories in people's eyes. I captured the rain hitting the pavement. I captured the light on a stranger's face. I was poor. I counted my coins every day. I ate bread and cheese for dinner. But my soul was full of color. My heart was a wild bird. I was free. Then the storm arrived. It was not a storm of rain. It was a storm of sickness. My mother was my only family. She was a woman of music and laughter. But one Tuesday, she fell. The sound of her body hitting the floor haunts me. Thud. The hospital was a world of white and gray. The air smelled of bleach. It smelled of medicine. It smelled of death. The doctors spoke in cold numbers. Stage 4, they said. Expensive treatments, they said. Private clinics, they said. I looked at my bank account. It was empty. I looked at my mother's pale hands. They were shaking. I sold my lenses. I sold my books. I sold my small apartment. But the bills kept coming. They were red envelopes. Red means danger. Red means debt. I sat in the hospital hallway at 2 a.m. I put my head in my hands. I felt like a person drowning in a black ocean. I was ready to sink. That is when Julian appeared. He did not come as a monster. He came as an angel. He was a business partner of my father's old friend. He walked into the hospital room. The floorboards did not creak under his shoes. His shoes were made of the finest leather. They were silent. They were expensive. He was wearing a dark blue suit. The fabric was perfect. He stood by the window blocking the sun. He looked at my mother. Then he looked at me. His eyes were not cold then. They were full of kindness. "Sarah," he said. His voice was a deep, steady vibration. "I heard about your trouble. You are too young to carry this mountain. Let me help you." I was desperate. I was terrified. I reached for his hand like a child reaches for a lifeline. I didn't see the hook inside the hand. Julian acted fast. He moved my mother to the best clinic in the country. He paid the surgeons. He paid the nurses. He paid the debt to the bank. He used a gold fountain pen to sign the checks. Scratch. Scratch. The sound of the pen was the sound of my freedom being sold. He saved my mother's life. He saved my father's old house from the bank. I felt a wave of gratitude. It was a heavy wave. It was a crushing wave. "How can I ever repay you, Julian?" I asked him one evening. We were in his office. The office was full of dark wood and the smell of tobacco. Julian walked toward me. He touched my cheek with one finger. His skin was warm. "I don't want money, Sarah," he whispered. "I want a companion. I want a woman who understands loyalty. I want you." I looked at him. He was handsome. He was powerful. He was my hero. I told myself that gratitude was the same as love. I told myself that I was the luckiest girl in the world. I told myself that a safe life was better than a free life. 6 months later, we were engaged. The ring was the first handcuff. It was a 5-carat diamond. It was so bright it hurt my eyes. 1 week before the wedding, I came home to my old apartment. I wanted to grab my camera. I wanted to take one last photo of the streets. But my apartment was empty. The walls were bare. My books were gone. My leather jacket was gone. And my Leica camera was gone. I ran to Julian's office. I was crying. "Julian, someone broke into my home. My camera is missing." Julian did not look up from his papers. He smiled his perfect smile. "No one broke in, darling," he said softly. "I sent my men to clean the place. You don't need those old things anymore. You are going to be Mrs. Thorne. You will have the best cameras in the world if you want them. But you don't need to work. You don't need to walk in the mud. I have bought you a new life, Sarah. A clean life." I felt a cold chill in my blood. But my Leica, it was my father's gift. Julian stood up. He walked over and gripped my shoulders. His hands were strong. His grip was too firm. "The past is a debt, Sarah, and I have paid it. Now, you belong to the future. You belong to me." The wedding day was a masterpiece of luxury. There were 1,000 white lilies. There was the most expensive champagne. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was whispering about the fairy tale. I wore a dress that cost $50,000. It was heavy. It was so tight I could barely eat. As I stood at the altar, it began to rain. I looked through the stained glass window of the church. I saw the gray street outside. I saw a girl in a raincoat walking by. She was holding a small, cheap camera. She looked messy. She looked wet. But she looked happy. I looked at Julian. He was looking at the guests, not at me. He was showing off his new prize. The priest asked the question. I felt the weight of the silver choker on my neck. I felt the weight of the medical bills. I felt the weight of the house he saved. I realized then that I was not a bride. I was a payment. I was the interest on a loan. I closed my eyes. I said, "I do." The silver bell in the tower rang. Clang, clang. To the world it was a celebration. To me it was the sound of the cage door locking forever. I had traded my Leica for a diamond. I had traded my soul for safety. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. The wedding was a memory. The white lilies died. The guests went home. And I became the lady of the house. The Thorne Mansion is a giant. It is made of white stone. It is beautiful to look at. But it is a silent giant. The floors are made of marble. They are cold. They do not hold the warmth of the sun. There is no laughter in these halls. There is no music. There is only the sound of the clocks. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The clocks are made of gold. They are perfect. They tell me that time is passing. But in this house, time is a desert. It is a flat, gray line. I walk through the rooms. My footsteps make no sound. The carpets are too thick. They swallow the noise. They swallow the life. I realized that I am not a person here. I am a shadow. I am a ghost in a palace. One morning, I opened my eyes. I went to my closet. I wanted to wear something bright. I wanted to remember the girl from the flower shop. I wanted to wear my red scarf, but it was not there. My closet was a world of neutral colors. Everything was beige. Everything was cream. Everything was gray. The fabrics were expensive. They were silk. They were cashmere. But they were lifeless. Julian appeared behind me. He was wearing his suit. He looked at my choices. "Color is for children, Sarah," he said. His voice was smooth like oil. "A lady of your status should be elegant. She should be quiet. She should blend into the background." He picked out a beige dress. He held it against my skin. "This is who you are now," he whispered. I looked in the mirror. The beige dress made me look like the walls. I was disappearing into the house. I was becoming a piece of furniture. I touched the silk. It felt like cold water. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the fabric, but I just nodded. I let him dress me like a doll. Julian did not just change my clothes. He changed my world. He began to erase my friends, one by one. I wanted to call Maria. Maria was my best friend from the art school. She was loud. She was messy. She loved the streets. But Julian took my phone. He looked at her name. He frowned. She is not good for your image, Sarah. She is small. She is unimportant. She reminds you of a life you have outgrown. He deleted her number. Swipe. He deleted my past. He invited new friends. They were the wives of his business partners. They wore the same beige dresses. They had the same frozen smiles. We sat in the garden. We drank tea from china cups. The tea was bitter. We talked about jewelry. We talked about interior design. We never talked about dreams. We never talked about the heart. I looked at their eyes. Their eyes were empty. They were like me. They were all prisoners of the same system. They were all trophies on a shelf. In the basement, there was a small room. It was the only room with a window near the ground. I found my old easel there. I found some old paints. They were dry. They were hard like stones. Julian had locked the room, but I found the key in a silver jar. I went there when he was at the office. I sat on the cold floor. I touched the wood of the easel. It smelled of my father. It smelled of the time when I was free. I tried to paint. I took a brush. I wanted to paint the sky, but my hand was shaking. I could only paint gray lines. I had forgotten how to see the blue. I had forgotten how to feel the light. Suddenly, I heard a sound. The heavy front door opened upstairs. Thud. Julian was home early. My heart jumped. It was a panic. It was a terror. I hid the paints. I locked the door. I ran to the kitchen. I sat at the table. I looked at a magazine. When Julian entered, I was perfect. I was the beige doll. He kissed my forehead. His lips felt like ice. "What did you do today, darling?" he asked. "Nothing." I lied. "I did nothing at all." He smiled. "Good," he said. "That is exactly what I want." That night, we had a dinner party. Important men came to the house. They brought their beautiful wives. The table was covered in silver. The candles were tall and white. Julian stood up. He raised his glass. He put his hand on my waist. His fingers were like a claw. "I want to thank you all for coming," he said. "I am a very successful man, but my greatest achievement is right here." He looked at me. He showed me to the crowd. Everyone clapped. Clap, clap, clap. The sound was like a hammer. I felt the weight of the diamonds. I felt the tightness of the silk. I was a masterpiece on a wall. I was a diamond in a display case. The men talked about millions of dollars. They talked about power. They talked about the city. But no one looked at me. No one asked my opinion. No one cared if I was breathing. I was just the achievement of Julian Thorne. I was the proof of his wealth. The guests left at midnight. The house became a tomb again. Julian went to bed. He was happy. He had won the night. I stayed in the living room. I looked at the gold-framed mirror. The woman inside was beautiful. Her skin was perfect. Her hair was smooth, but her soul was gone. I realized the truth of the eraser. Julian did not save my mother. He bought a hostage. He did not save my house. He built a prison. He was not my husband. He was my owner. Every gift was a chain. Every care was a lock. I reached for my neck. I touched the diamond choker. It felt like it was getting tighter. It felt like it was cutting my throat. "Who are you?" I whispered to the mirror. The mirror gave no answer. There was only the silence. And the ticking of the gold clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The eraser had finished its work. Sarah the photographer was dead, but Sarah the prisoner was starting to wake up. She was starting to hate the beige. She was starting to remember the silver camera, and she was starting to plan her escape. Julian had a surprise for our 7th anniversary. We sat at the long breakfast table. The silver spoons were shining. The coffee was hot and bitter. He handed me a large envelope. "Happy anniversary, Sarah," he said. His eyes were bright with a strange energy. I opened the envelope. My hands began to shake. Inside were legal papers and 2 plane tickets. Julian had sold my father's house, the only place that held my memories, the only thing that was truly mine. It was old and useless. "Darling," he said, eating his toast, "we are moving to the city. I bought a giant villa there. A fresh start, far away from your past." I looked at him. He did not even look at my face. He was checking his phone. He did not see my heart breaking. In that moment, the blindfold fell. Julian did not love Sarah. Julian owned Sarah. I was just another asset, like the car, like the house, like the beige dresses. That evening, Julian threw a party, a farewell party. The mansion was full of people in suits. The smell of expensive perfume was thick. I wore a long silver dress. It was shimmering like a fish in a net. I had diamonds on my wrists. I had diamonds on my ears. Everyone came to me. "You are so lucky, Sarah," they whispered. "A new villa in the city. Julian is such a wonderful man." I smiled. My face hurt from the performance. Julian stood in the center of the room. He tapped his glass. Clink, clink, clink. The room went silent. He put his arm around my waist. He squeezed me too tight. "Friends," he said loudly, "we celebrate a new chapter tonight. I want to give my beautiful wife everything she deserves." Everyone clapped. Julian looked at me. He expected me to speak. He wanted the doll to say, "Thank you, Julian." His eyes were cold and demanding. I took a deep breath. My heart was a drum. Boom, boom, boom. I looked at the crowd. I looked at the silver bubbles in the glasses. Then I looked at Julian. "No," I whispered. Julian frowned. "What did you say, darling?" I stepped away from his arm. I raised my voice. I said, "No, I am not going, Julian." The room gasped. The silence was heavy like lead. Julian's face turned red. "Sarah, you are tired. You have had too much champagne." "I am not tired," I said. "For the first time in 7 years, I am wide awake. You bought my debts. You bought my clothes. But you cannot buy me. Sarah, stop this." He hissed. "I saved you. You were nothing without me." "Yes," I said. Tears were on my face. "You saved me and I was grateful. But gratitude is not love." Julian, "And a marriage is not a cage. I am not your achievement. I am a woman, and I am done." I reached for my neck. I touched the diamond choker. It was hard to undo, but finally, the lock clicked. I placed the diamonds on the table next to the champagne. "Keep the jewelry," I said. "It belongs to the mansion, but my life belongs to me." I pulled the diamond ring from my finger. It left a red mark on my skin. I dropped it into his glass. Plop. I turned around. I walked through the crowd. I heard Julian calling my name. "Sarah, come back! You have nowhere to go!" I did not stop. I opened the front door. I walked out into the night. The night air was freezing. The rain began to fall. Pitter-patter. I had no coat. I had no purse. I had no money in my pocket. I was walking in a silver dress on a dark street. My expensive shoes were covered in mud, but I felt something strange. I felt light. I took a deep breath. The air was cold, but it was fresh. It tasted like freedom. The silk handcuffs were broken. The beige world was behind me. I walked until my legs were tired. I found a phone booth. I remembered one number, Maria. The friend Julian had erased. The phone rang twice. Hello? Maria, it's Sarah. I'm coming home. That was 2 years ago. My life is very different now. I do not live in a mansion. I rent a small room above a bakery. The room is noisy. It is small. It smells of fresh bread and flour every morning. I do not wear emerald silk. I wear jeans and old t-shirts. My shirts are covered in paint. I work in the bakery in the morning. In the afternoon, I take out my easel. I saved it from the basement before I left. I sit by the window. I paint. My paintings are full of color. Red, blue, yellow, green. I look at my hands. They are rough. They are not perfect, but they are my hands. Yesterday I sold a painting. It was a picture of a silver dress in the rain. With the money I bought a new scarf. It is bright orange. It is not elegant, but it is mine. I learned a hard lesson in the Thorn Mansion. A golden cage is still a cage. You cannot trade your soul for comfort. It is better to eat bread in freedom than to eat steak in a prison. Love is not control. Love is not about saving someone to own them. Love is letting someone fly. If someone tries to change your colors, they do not love you. They love the idea of you. I lost everything to find myself, and I have never been happier. Today, look at your own life. Are you wearing silk handcuffs? Are you living in a beige world to please others? Do not be afraid of the rain. Do not be afraid of the mud, because that is where the real colors grow. You are not a trophy. You are a masterpiece in progress. Be brave enough to be you. Thank you for listening to Sarah's journey on learning English every day. Her story reminds us that the most expensive things in life are often the ones that cost us our freedom. Please, share this story with someone who needs the courage to break their own chains. Practice these final words: achievement, handcuffs, grateful, freedom. I will see you in the next story. Keep your colors bright. Goodbye.